Hey guys, just thought I would make a quick video. Um, for the first time, I won my first set champs. First time winner, so I'm very happy about that. But what's even sweeter is that I went undefeated the whole tournament. So I finished 7 wins, 0 losses and 1 draw. The 1 draw was in the 5th round of Swiss. Basically, I was the only undefeated and I just wanted to secure first seed through top cut. So I kind of talked to my opponent and said, hey, let's just ID, we can go get food and have a bit of a break before top cut starts. And yeah, it was a very fun day. A lot of great players came out. There was a top 64 DLC player there, a lot of set champs, previous set champs winners, and just a bunch of good local players. So very good day, very good tournament, and I'm very happy that I came out with the win. I played a purple steel, like mid-range, but not really mid-range, and aggro, but not really aggro. It was kind of in between. I teched my deck out to be great into a red-blue and discard matchup. Red-blue is very huge in our local meta here, so I felt like that's never a bad choice, taken against red-blue. And then also, purple steel's worst matchup is blurple. So trying to find an answer for blurple, that early Popsicle Bell is such a great control card for them early. And purple and steel don't really have great answers that early for a 3-3 body. Madam Mim is quite good, but it's still a turn later, and then a turn later to challenge into. So kind of gives Bell 2 turns to kind of sing friends or do whatever. So I did take into Blurple, which I versed in a top 4 match, and I came out 2-1. He's a very good Blurple player, been playing since 2 sets ago, I think. But yeah, it was a very, very, very fun match. Anyways, the deck list goes as is. So firstly, 4 Chernobog followers. It's just a staple 1-drop. Kind of my go-to first play, first ink play. There's no reason not to pop and draw on the second turn unless you're versing hyper aggros, but yeah, everyone knows what Chernobogs does, very staple 1-drop. Next we got 4 1-drop Diablos. You never really ink this card in a red-blue matchup. I would always ink Chernobog followers first turn, play out a Diablo. If they challenge into Diablo, that's fine. It's kind of, red-blue has so much banish that Diablo will always get instant value out of that. And against red-blue, this deck kind of is okay playing a longer game because these Diablos banish, Merlin Rabbit banishes, so you're constantly having cards in hand, you're constantly pumping out characters, and you have a very steady tempo that it's never an inkable card, this one. You always play it out against a red-blue matchup. 2 Captain Hooks. This is for a blurple matchup. Like I said before, purple steel's worst matchup is blurple. The bell is very strong. This was about the only answer I could find in a one ink turn that could actually do something. Captain Hook Challenger +2, so this can challenge out a bell second turn. Or if you're on the play, you play out a hook first and then they play out the bell. It kind of makes them think, do they just want to quest out, do they want to sing friends? Makes them think more about their next move without being unpunished. So 2 Captain Hooks couldn't really bump up to 4, didn't have the space, nor was there that many blurple matchups. But Captain Hook mainly for a blurple matchup for purple steel. Next is 4 2-drop Madam Mims. Again, another staple purple card. Don't really play it second turn unless I have no other option. But, you know, 3-3 body is never bad to get out. Next, 4 Mr. Smees. Overstated card. It's a must in any steel deck. 3/3 quest for 2 with the Captain Hook, takes no damage. So if you're playing this out in a red-blue matchup as well, I would never tap Hook. I would just keep questing for Shmi without getting punished. If they have brawls to brawl a Captain Hook, that's 3 ink for your 1 ink, so great value for you. They miss a turn if they have to, but this is also a great combo here. But yeah, a must-have in any steel deck. Next is 3 Calhouns. Calhouns also for the Bell matchup in Blurple is great, but again, it's also 1 turn later. But it's not the worst. Great against Chernodogs and great against any hyper aggro. So 3 is a comfortable number, but if I could, I would drop down to 2. But for now, 3 is a great number. Next up, got 4 Petes. I love Pete. Pete can disrupt red blues ramping, can disrupt discard. Yeah, Pete's just a very consistent character to play into any matchup besides hyper aggro. And maybe Blurple, because Blurple, they usually look at the turn 2 ramp and that's kind of it, unless they're, you know, singing songs, Let It Go, Friends, or playing actions like Finders Keepers if they're playing that. But yeah, Pete's never a bad answer. Maybe not your 3rd ink turn. It's a bit too early, unless you are on the draw. And that means red, blue, or any other, or discard is 1 turn ahead of you. Playing Pete for your 3rd turn is always a great option. Next is 4 Madam Mim Foxes. Again, staple, 4/3, overstatted, great into hyper aggro. Wouldn't play this into a Blurple matchup on 3rd ink. If this is your trade into Blurple, you're already so far behind, because your 1-drops probably haven't survived then unless it's Captain Hook. And then you need something to bounce it. So then now you have nothing on board, you're trading out a Bell. They probably got Genie out, and then they slam down maybe another Genie or a Bell or an Elsa next turn, or an Iago, and just gain intense board control. So again, Madam Mim Fox isn't your best 3rd turn play against Blurple, but into anything else is pretty awesome. Next is 4 of the White Roses. This is my go-to 3rd ink turn if it's available. It doesn't feel bad, you know, singing songs with this card after I've played it, because technically you've already gained that 1 lore. You haven't slowed down your tempo unless you're trying to race out red, blue or something like that. But yeah, this feels great, very consistent. It's quick and it's strong 3/3. So great into discard as well. Next is 2 Merlin Crabs. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Merlin Crab in a previous iteration of this deck. I feel like, seeing as purple and steel, all their bodies have 3 attack, 3 health, you know, 4 attack here. But like, they're such big bodies that challenging isn't your biggest weakness. Unless it's into locations or such like that, but still, it's not such a problem that you need extra challenger. The reason I've put in at least 2 crabs is for Maui Half Shark, McDuck Manor, and Hades and Blurple. So, you know, slamming down an Elsa and sacrificing a Merlin or bouncing the Merlin to give Elsa the +3 challenges into Maui is another option if you don't have Along Came Zeus. Or buffing up any of these 3/3s, challenging into Hades, which is a big body 3/6, to get it off in 1 go is pretty necessary now in the meta that's kind of forming. So 2 crabs feels good. There is, you know, an argument to bump that up to 4. However, I haven't needed to see more than 2, or if I needed to, you know, bounce is always an option. So 2 feels quite steady at this time. Next is 4 Merlin Goats. Don't need to say anything about that. That's needed in every purple deck. Yeah, next one, 4 rabbits. So the biggest difference about my purple steel to, I guess, every other purple steel is that I don't play docks. I think docks can be quite inconsistent, and I feel like it stalls you hard if you don't see docks. You kind of top decking because your draw isn't as powerful as this iteration. I get maybe you got 4 genies, but like playing a genie, bouncing a genie, you're not getting that draw value until you play genie again for 4. So this is drawing you essentially 1 extra card, 2 extra cards per bounce or something like that. But yeah, even I get value when red-blue board wipes. So if they're playing Sisus, if they're playing B-preps, I'm not technically too worried as long as I'm controlling board. So this is always my go-to for 4-ink turn. I slam down rabbit, you know, and then if they're playing half shark next turn, hopefully I have a Zeus in head. I can just Zeus, play out more characters, keep the tempo up, force them to spend the 7 ink rather than singing it with big seesaw or something like that. I force them to spend 7 ink to be prep. I draw cards off Diablo, Merlin, and that wastes their whole turn. So that's why I believe the rabbit package is more consistent than the dock package. In saying that, I still run 2 genies because quest for 2, evasive, 2/4. You can survive a lot of songs, let the storm rage on, you know, strength of raging fire, you need to play an extra character. So genies are still good. I just don't think 4 over 4 rabbits is the best choice. Next we got 4 5-drop elses. I think evasive is just too huge into the meta nowadays. 4 elses is needed. Elsa crab into Maui, like I said before, is an option. Elsa genie into a genie. I guess the biggest downside is the 2. Dies to brawl, dies to Sisu. You know, it can't really challenge that hard without crab, but the exertion is quite nice. Also much needed into discard. If anyone's playing Emerald Steel, hopefully you're able to control the Hidden Cove with all your 3/3s early, so they're not putting Diablo into Hidden Cove. So then when you slam down Elsa 5 turn, you're able to take out the Diablo in a swift movement if you haven't been able to remove it earlier. So Elsa is much needed into now's meta. For songs, we got Friends on the Other Side, just 3 of those. Not much to say about that. I've put in 3 of the Let the Storm Rages on. This is mainly for Iago. Iago is a giant control card right now, and as you can probably see from this deck list, there's not a lot of evasive control. So I needed a solution that's cost efficient and also gives me value. Before I was only running Strength of a Raging Fire and Zeus's, but using a Strength onto an Iago, like, it still works. However, you're still using an insane song that can get you more value elsewhere onto like a Maui Half Shark or like a Hades or something like that, onto an Iago where you could possibly be doing, you know, 4 or 5 damage. Compared to this where you deal 2 and you draw a card. So you're not exactly losing any tempo playing this song. Instead, if you only had 1 character out, you hard cast you know, Strength onto an Iago. That just feels bad, honestly. But yeah, Let the Storm Rage on, mainly for Iago. You know, it can finish off Maui's, it can finish off evasives if they're still surviving, if they're popping it with the popsicles, healing up. It's great. Draws card, you know, this song is never bad, so insane value, I think. Next is 4 Strength of a Raging Fire. Staple steel song. Can get insane value if you're able to pump out and have characters on board. good for Maui, Hades, Tamatoas. Yeah, just if you're able to control your characters on board, if you're smart enough to bounce play and then be able to sing it, you know, you can get insane value out of that. Plus inkable, it's never bad. And then lastly is 3 Zeuses. You would never really use these songs unless it's for Maui Half Shark, Tamatoa, Sisu's. You know, maybe there's a argument for Hades. If you don't have, you know, the crab in a 3/3 attack, maybe you need to send in a Chernobog or a Captain Hook to do the last 1 damage to it. But I usually hold on to a Zeus in my mulligan phase if I'm versing against a red-blue player. Because they spend 6 ink. If I have to hardcast Zeus, it's not the worst, because by that moment, they're just focused about ramping the first 2-3 turns, or maybe 4 turns, unless they play Grand Matala. By then, I should have already established at least 1, 2, 3 characters, you know, hopefully a Diablo, Mr. Smee, and a White Rose. Hopefully that's 3 characters established. On their 6 ink turn, if they're playing a Maui Half Shark, and then my 4 ink turn, I'm just hard casting a Zeus. That's fine, because I'm still protecting these 3. And then I'm able to maybe bounce to Smee on my 5 ink turn, play out Smee again, so he's healed up, all the damage is negged. But yeah, in any other matchup, you can Zeus where you see fit. But yeah, this I feel like is a more consistent purple steel deck compared to the Doc version. You know, Doc is, when it runs well, it runs well. Someone won a set champs here with the Doc version, so you know, it's not, I'm not saying it's a bad deck. I think this is probably just a bit more consistent into every matchup in every game that you're playing. So I hope seeing this deck list maybe gives you a different outlook on purple steel. And yeah, hopefully you guys can go and win your own. Thanks for sticking around.